What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Tuesday stream on the Grey Exchange and whatnot. I do have a special guest for you folks. Down to the wire, folks, putting this together for you. Amazing folks in the community. I hope you guys enjoy this stream. That being said, I kind of want to, I don't want to usually do the normal spiel where I'm, say hello to every single one of you folks. So I kind of want to do that one big umph and just say thank you all for being here. Truly appreciate all your guys' support as well as you mods. Taking care of the business. What's up, Timmy? Good to see you. I seen you pop in there, man. But this is going to be an exciting live stream for myself just because I'm a fan of Chris's books and whatnot, and I hope that you are too. All right, so without further ado, let me bring up the Angery American. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man?
So some of you folks may or may not. I appreciate that, Dr. Eric Kessel. If you guys, some of you may, if you don't know who he is, then that's going to surprise me. But I'm going to go ahead and let Chris, aka the Angery American, kind of introduce himself a little bit to you folks, and then we'll get started.
Well, that's me, the Angery American. I'm just a redneck that writes some books every now and then. So that's what I tell folks. I'm just a storyteller that got a little carried away.
Yeah, but the thing is, one huge thing with it, man, it's that you brought your preparedness background to it. You know what I mean? And yeah. I think that's what makes it more intriguing and more the believability, because an EMP is something that's definitely probable in our society.
It's definitely high on the list of things to keep an eye on and watch. Because it would be a one-shot wonder. For lack of a better term, it could take us down. It really take three of them, but it would take us down quite a notch, if that was to occur.
Agree that, as they say, the average the average power station is about 50 years old, and our grid sucks.
Yeah, our grid's in horrible condition. I spent about 20 years working on power plants and for power companies, and so I'm well versed in our power grid and the condition it's in.
That's quite intriguing. So that being said, brother, how did you what's your story? Like your literal story in creating this amazing collection of books?
Well, I've been in I'm going to call it survivalism, not necessarily the prepping side, but I started out with primitive survival, so Stone Age skills, and then worked my way up from there, bringing me around to what we call modern prepping today. Which is where I prefer to be, because that Stone Age thing sucks. I mean, we don't live in caves and we use steel knives now, not stone, for a reason, and so I like to take advantage of as much technology as I can, but also not be technology reliant,
right.
If I can, to the best degree that I can. But, I have, nice kit, good equipment and stuff now. And so it's a little different than it was back in the day. But, I started writing these books. I was actually I'd left the power plant work, and I was doing security systems in jails and prisons all around the country. So all the access control, camera systems, intercoms, all that kind of stuff, water controls, you name it, gates, doors, whatever.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time in hotels, and I don't really like to go to bars. I'm not that guy. I'd rather just sit in a hotel. And so I'd grab a bottle of whiskey or something, and I started writing this story, and just on a whim, because I was on a forum, survival forum, and they had a fiction section. And I was reading the stories one night, and I was like, yeah, these are all kind of cool, but they're all sort of missing something from me. And I was like, oh, screw it. I'm going to write one. That was literally as much thought went into it. And I decided I'd do it on EMP because that would make it as bad as it could be.
Right.
And I just went from there. It quickly took on a life of its own. Like we completely took over the forum. Like the owner was mad at me and stuff because we were kind of like running a rough shot over his forum. And but I wrote the first 2 books on the forum just for my own entertainment. Really, that's the reason I was doing it. But it was the readers there that were like, you need to publish this. And I was like, I'm not going to publish this. I'm a writer. Nobody's going to pay money for this garbage. And but they were very persistent. And one of my friends posted my PayPal account. He's like, send him money. We'll make him do it. And they did. So then I felt obligated to make it a book. Still not taking it serious. I was like, look, I'll get this done so you guys can get your copies if you'll just shut up and leave me alone. But in that process, get it all done, and it goes on Amazon. Well, the first month it was on Amazon, it made like a quarter of my annual salary.
Wow.
So it got my attention. And So I started to take it serious, and I was in the process of self-publishing the second book when Penguin Books called and made an offer, and I turned the first offer down.
All
And
right.
2 weeks later, they called back with a second offer, and I didn't turn that one down. So we did 5 books with Penguin, and then I pretty much fired them after the 5 because, as they said, negotiations broke down. And now I just self-publish. I just do it myself. I just hired a high-end editing firm, so the books are going to get better.
Nice.
I've tried to use all the friends and family plan, and it's just not working out. So
Gotcha.
it's very expensive, this editing firm, but it comes with a lot of stuff. They're going to do a lot more than just edit for me. But I figured after a decade, it's about time I turn this into a business. So
Yeah, for sure, brother. I mean, it's the storyline is amazing, the character development in there, and like I said, just everything. And the reason I listen to books like yours, you know, and I was turned on. I think it was it was JM at the Nut House. One of my viewers that said, "Hey, you got to read this book. You live in Florida, Grey. This would appeal to you." And I was like, "Florida, you know, survival book. What's going on? I needed to get this." And of course, as soon as I got into the first one, it was downhill from there.
yeah.
You know, and are you still located in the Florida area? Or?
Oh yeah. I still live in like Central Lake County, northern Lake County, really. But yeah, I'm in Lake County, up here on the edge of the Ocala Forest.
That's awesome, man. And it's funny how it takes place there, and that's what from Jacksonville to Ocala and that whole thing. And you know, it makes me think, and that's what you got. I guess what I'm trying to say is, by listening to your books, as well as others that kind of delve into this realm of things, is you learn things from these characters and the aspect of some of the mistakes they might make, as well as what they're dealing with, you know, with the whole postal service and all that stuff like that, how that you incorporated in that, because big government will always be that evil that runs the world, even when things go really south, you know?
Yeah, government is nothing but a monopoly on force. That's it. That's really all it is. Do what we say. We're going to send men with guns to come get you. All it boils down to. I mean, you know, everything they say really is said at the barrel of a gun, if you think about it.
So. No, I agree. And that being said, folks, just if you guys want to connect with Angery American, I do have his links down below, Mod. You guys can probably find those down there as well, in case you guys don't know. He does have his YouTube channel. We just discussed that. It's going to be getting more content here soon, but I suggest looking at his older content too, because I watched every single video there was on there.
Well, I have a bunch over on Survival Dispatch. I'm not associated with those guys no more, but there are, I mean, shit, there's over 100 videos over there probably.
I saw, because that background, that's what kind of, I saw that because I follow Survival Dispatch, as well as I think they have a forum and website and all kinds of stuff, don't they?
Yeah, well, I was there at the formation of that. It was mine and John Faulkner's concept, and then it was things went south when neither of us are associated with it now. So, as these things always work out.
Yeah, things happen. I mean, we can only go so far and do so many things with people, and you know that makes me think. What's up, Texas T? Thank you for the super chat, brother. Love the series and reading book 11. That's awesome. You're ahead of me. You're ahead of me by one book, because I've been savoring that book. And I'm hoping hope the what's the guy that reads your books? I forget his name.
Luke Fontaine.
Yeah, his voice just makes everything pull together, man. Pull together.
Yeah, he does a good job. One of these days, I'm gonna try to get him on a podcast or something so we can talk about it. I can't show his face, but I can show. You know, I could have his voice anyway.
That would be a pretty good idea, because I'll be honest with you, when I listen to a lot of these books, depending on the narrator, sometimes it can be off-putting if the narrator doesn't do a good enough job. So,
yeah, a narrator will ruin a book or make it. You know,
agreed.
So I got lucky with him.
That's awesome. So a little bit about your background in regards to preparedness, survivalism, and stuff like that. You know, I've had some people may not know this, but you had a little bit of where was it? Season 1? Season 1 of
Season 1, yeah.
Season 1, yeah.
I was there for a minute.
I think people don't realize what it's like that, you know, going in an environment like that. I don't know if you're familiar with Carly Fairchild or not.
Yeah.
I had her on the channel at one time and discussed with her experience on there. I think she was the longest woman ever to be on alone. And then she had that issue in I think season 5 where she it just takes one mistake and it's just game over at that point.
Yep. Yeah, don't take much at all. You know, because you are, and like for season 1, you know, we knew we were the beta. You know, they hadn't
Right.
done this before. They'd gone over all their emergency procedures and their evac plans and all that stuff. And like me and Alan Kay, we were laughing about it. We're like, if anything bad happens, they might get here in time to recover the body. And so, like for me, you know, the second night I'm there, a pack of wolves shows up. Anybody who knows me knows me and big dogs don't necessarily get along. I've been bit a lot. I've been bit by canines. I mean, I've been bit. It happens. So when they showed up, it was just like, you know, I was more worried about cougars than anything, you know, mountain lions, but I wasn't scared of them. I was just aware.
Right.
But then that night, you know, I heard those wolves up on the ridge behind me, and I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, of all the things in the world, you know, it's got to be that. And then they came down into my camp. They were very curious about what I was and what I was doing there. And they were within like 30 feet of me. Like, they got that close. Yeah. And so I'm trying to get a signal on a sat phone that took over an hour to get a signal on the sat phone. And they're out there. They're just right there. And walking back and forth and pacing and whining and yipping and all kinds of shit. And finally get a signal. I tell them, you know, look, I'm like, I got wolves in my camp. They're here in the camp. I said, y'all need to come down here, or, you know, come get me the fuck out of here. And
Right.
14 hours later,
Wow.
they rolled up on the beach. So, and I was like, well, they're gone. I'll stay. You know, they're like, oh, you called, you got to go. So I was like, all right, whatever. That's fine. I'm good with that. You know, I got a lot of grief over it. It cracks me up. It's always the people that have never done anything that say that kind of crap. And they'll want to talk shit about people who actually go do things. So they can hate. It don't bother me. I don't care what anybody's got to say. It was an awesome experience. I had a lot of fun doing it. You know, my buddy Alan won the season.
Nice.
Which I knew he would. I told him when I set him up on the show, I said, I know you're going to win this. And he did. So it was, that was awesome. For me, that was a better outcome, you know, have him win it than me win it. I mean, yeah, $5 million would have been nice, but we didn't know that was even in play when we got there. We had no idea.
Really?
Yeah, we were in Vancouver Island. We were in Port Hardy when they told us. We had no idea. So
interesting.
Now it's all about the money. Everybody that went for season 1 was there to do the thing.
Right.
Now it's just about the money. And I've talked to countless people there. Oh, can you help me get on there, man? I really need to win that. I'll throw the sat phone in the ocean. I'm not tapping out. I'm like, yeah, well, that's retarded. That's how you die, you know?
Right.
Because you are left alone. This isn't like some of the other shows. There's no crew around you. You are legitimately left alone. So
I agree with you there too, man, because I watch Naked and Afraid just because I'm curious. I like to see these people do these things butt naked in the woods. And, but I always tell my wife, because my wife, maybe you should talk to her, but my wife literally wants to go on alone. I don't know why, but she thinks that she can do a good job. But I'm like, all right, you can figure that out on your own. And however that plays out for you. I'll support you. But naked and Afraid, man, it's like, I hurt my finger. I'm not feeling too good. Medic. You know, I mean, that just makes it too easy, you know, at that point. So,
and you know, there's other people around you. There's camera crews and producers, and a lot of that stuff on that show is scripted. I mean, I'll tell you that for a fact. Like I watched one of the episodes where this girl had set a trap to snare a hog, and they hear this pig squeal. They take off running, and they come around the bend in this trail, and there's a little pig there, a little 40-pound hog, supposedly in her trap, but the noose of the trap is just slack around the middle of this thing, and it's just standing there. And I was like, oh, you people need to give that little boy his pet pig back, because that ain't no wild hog. I mean, I know how wild hogs react when they see people, and it ain't just stand there and look at you. And not to mention that the trap wasn't tight, nor was there any way for that noose to have gotten in the position it was on that thing without it being put on it. So you got to take it with a grain of salt, you know. Les Stroud did it for real, and Alone did it for real. The rest of them, you know, whatever.
I've heard that as well amongst folks out there and stuff like that. And that's why I enjoy the series Alone, just because, you know, everybody gets off that helicopter, whatever they're getting off a boat, whatnot. And they're all like, yeah, I'm happy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to win. And then I slowly, as soon as here's to me is what I've noticed. As soon as they mention, I miss my family, I know all hell's going down from there.
Yep.
Like, all right, they're out.
They didn't show my insertion because they couldn't use any of that video. Because all I did was cuss them. They took me in on a float plane. They got about 20 feet from shore and 4 feet of water and told me to go.
Wow.
And I had an 80-pound ruck on my back with all the emergency crap and all the stuff we had to carry in there. camera gear and other shit, and I had to jump in and wade ashore, and I was not happy because I was the only guy that got wet being inserted,
Right.
and I stayed wet the entire time I was there. I never dried out.
Quite interesting story, man. And thanks for sharing that. And yeah, no one can really take anything away from you, man, because there's a lot of folks that in their mind, they may think they can do it, but as soon as they drop there and reality sets in, it takes a lot of, a big one to get out there and do it,
It does. It's just like in a few days here, I got like 10 days or so, and I'm leaving for a contract. I do, I work with Robin Sage. It's the Green Berets like final exam. I'm a role player out there for them, and that's
Nice.
2 weeks in the field. And you're living like a guerrilla fighter. It's whatever you bring to sleep in, whatever you bring to live in, is what you live in. And so, your tents and sleeping bags, and there's water has to be brought in jerry cans. You're using a latrine, like an outhouse style, that into barrels that have to be burned off. It's legit,
Right.
very guerrilla campish, and that's 2 solid weeks of that. And then you're also in all that time running missions, ambushes, raids, all that stuff, and having to be trained. So these students have to come in. The Green Beret students have to come in and teach us everything. So because we don't know anything,
Right.
which that's the hardest part, is forgetting that how to use this M4 when they hand it to you. You know how to run a 249 when they give it to you. You got to play dumb and make them teach you, and you can only perform at the level of their teaching. So if they give you really crappy instructions, that's what you got to run with. So
Roger that.
you can make it miserable.
And real quick, folks, for all of you folks that have come in since I started this, I want to say thank you guys for being here. I truly appreciate your guys' support. And I see you guys are hitting that thumbs up button too. So truly appreciate that. So speaking of preparedness and stuff like that, I mean, how long have you kind of been in the prepperverse of things? You know what I mean? I've done some research and background on you to kind of understand a little bit more outside of just your creative mind. You know what I mean? Because I know you tour around and you do talks and stuff like that about.
Well, I give talks sometimes. I'll give classes from time to time. Those are usually kind of customized to a group. We'll come in and do a class for them. But I've been in, like I said, I started the Stone Age stuff, the primitive skills, like over 30 years ago.
Wow.
And so it's just been an evolving thing, and then I really got into the firearm side of it and the tactical side, and I do a lot of training in that too. Shoot houses and on the range, running drills, doing all the stuff, not just square range work. I'm not a fan of just standing with my feet welded to the ground.
All right.
If you get in a real gunfight, it's not going to work out that way. So we try to train realistically, and I've got some great friends in the business that are instructors that if they're having a class anywhere, I can call them and be like, hey, I want to roll up, and they're gonna be like, come on in, and
Nice.
So it's really good to have access to that quality of instructors.
Speaking of firearms, I'm always curious. I always like to ask this question to certain folks in regards to if you could only choose one firearm for SHTF, what would that be?
I'd have to just take my AR, man, because in that world, my biggest concern is security. Right. I can come up with food, but it also depends on how big the situation is. Now, if it's a true without rule of law sort of thing, then I definitely want my rifle,
right? Because
hunting's not going to be an issue for long. Most people think they're going to run to the woods and hunt and support their family, and that is a myth. Within the first 2 months, you'll be lucky to see anything alive moving around at daylight, because there's just so many people that they'll just wipe the land clean of animals,
right?
Quickly. Back in the early 1900s, like white-tailed deer were nearly extirpated from the eastern United States. They did not exist east of the Mississippi, except rarely. Like seeing one was a notable thing. Like you would tell people you saw one. So, and the population back then was only like 43 or 44 million people, I think.
All right.
Fast forward to today, we've got 350 odd million people in this country, far more weapons. So game will vanish, and people need to be ready for that reality, because that's what will happen. And sadly, a lot of it will get wasted, because most people, the average person that doesn't hunt, has no idea how to process an animal. let alone a big animal. You know, they kill a deer, they might be able to hack enough meat off of it to take home and eat that night, but that's about all they're going to do. Same thing will happen with cattle. You'll see cattle laying dead where somebody came up and just cut a big hunk off the rump, took it home because they don't know what to do with that thing.
Right.
So, you know, not only do you need the skill to take the animal, you need the skill to know how to process it and then preserve that thing.
Agreed.
You can't just, you know, pile a bunch of meat under a tree and come back to it as you need it. It don't work that way.
Yeah, it's something I discuss a lot too, is you know, those skill sets. Even something as simple as fishing and cleaning fish and preserving that meat itself, far beyond, you know, if you take down big game and how to process that meat and store it properly. Most people just don't have that skill set this day and age. It's just something that's it's almost like a lost skill set amongst the general population.
Well, it is, because, you know, we're disconnected from where our food comes from. We have no involvement in the process of acquiring our food, short of cooking it. And even that is reduced to microwaving, you know, in most cases. So most people have no idea where their food comes from, or how that steak that's wrapped in that foam tray with cellophane got there.
Right.
What has to happen. And then, God forbid, they don't have refrigeration. Now, what do you do with that thing? How are you going to preserve it? You know, how are you going to keep it? So those are hard skills that are, like you said, you know, we're losing that in this country because everything's just, run to the store. I mean, there's people that live their lives going to the grocery store every day for that day's food. Like that boggles my mind.
Agreed. Most folks don't understand, and I've talked to many people who manage these distribution centers, manage the stores here locally, and they said literally 3 days max, and that's without panic buying. That's all the food that they carry. Without a trucks coming in and dropping that stuff off, it's game over.
Yep. Yeah.
It's game
There's
over.
not much, and as we were learning, the just-in-time inventory thing works great as long as everything is working. As soon as there's a snag in that line, we have serious issues. You know, you can look at Denmark right now, and the farmers there are basically striking, and they're blockading distribution centers and blockading major travel routes, and the grocery stores there are going empty because number one, the farmers aren't producing it, so it's not showing up on the market, and then they're blocking the distribution of anything that may be in a warehouse. You know, so it can happen quick, and folks don't realize it.
Roger that. And folks, I see some of you guys have thrown some things in there. I'll right towards the last 15 minutes or so, I'll try to do some Q&A with you folks that you can reach out to Chris, aka the Angery American, and ask some questions. But I just want to kind of keep it rolling for now. But I know you guys are there, and I appreciate your guys' support. I see a lot of interesting stuff in there. You guys, new viewers in here, I appreciate you guys being here as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's talk about, because there's a lot of folks out there, and I've seen even some homesteader channels. I'm not going to name any names or any of that stuff like that. That's not something I do, but I've watched certain channels and stuff kind of don't get the aspect that we might be in a critical situation when it comes to our food supply here in the United States.
Oh, we're in one, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, we haven't even begun to approach the actual food shortage yet, in my opinion. You know, you look at the crop failures that are occurring around our country right now. California just used eminent domain to seize the water rights from a bunch of rice farmers out there. And that's 458,000 acres of rice fields that are now going to dry up.
Wow.
Not going to be producing rice in California anymore. That's just one thing. And then you look at all the processing plant fires and things like that, where they're being taken offline. When Ukraine's wheat harvest, and people don't think that doesn't affect us, but it does affect us because a lot of that grain ends up in Africa and stuff. So they're going to have huge problems in Africa. A lot of violence and a lot of killing, and a lot of migrants are going to happen. And our government will probably send food over there, just like they're sending oil right now to Europe out of our strategic reserve.
Agreed.
Our strategic reserves are presently lower than they've ever been since 1985. They've never been this low. And Biden just keeps opening that tap and giving it to Europe, all the while complaining about the price of gas here. They just shut off drilling and pumping in Utah, just making it even more difficult to supply oil to the world. They're not doing anything to help it. The price of diesel is going up, which is making the price of everything else go up. And it's just, you know, I think by fall, we're going to be in pretty rough shape. That's my personal opinion. Nobody will be able to look around and say that we're not in a recession, or maybe even potentially a depression at that point.
No, I agree with you 100%. I've been kind of teetering on that fall date as well, just because the aspect of the things that I'm hearing from farmers, between droughts and fertilizer prices and like you said, the fuel cost and even labor issues in these areas are just compounding everything to create this massive, scary crisis that Americans may be facing here shortly by the end of 2022.
And Americans aren't used to that. We got to remember that. We're an on-demand society. Everything we want just a click away. You just click your mouse and right to your house. Be it Uber Eats or Amazon or however you're doing things. But when those options are drying up and going away, that's when people are really going to start freaking out. When the convenience of their life starts to fade away, and that convenience is already starting to fade. It just hasn't really compounded yet to where they can notice it.
All right. Yeah, it's I always tell people, I said, with people's neighbors or people that you think that when they look at their children and their children are starving and they know you got food, it's going to change the whole dynamics of that situation.
Yeah, it will. And for all those people that have always said, "Oh, I would never do X, whatever." If you've got a family, yeah, you will. You'll be surprised at what you will do, because your desire, your instinct to survive will overcome all those things, and you will do shit that ordinarily you would never dream of doing. You will do horrible things to feed your family or protect your family. And if that means starving the neighbor's kid to death, you'll do that to protect your kid. It's just, you'll do it, and so I think there's going to be a major reckoning on the conscience of the people of this country here in near future.
Agreed. And it makes me think of Morgan when he got home. This is in your book here, that he had all that food storage in that little, town that they kind of blocked off and, fortified, and how people started noticing that they were eating and no one else was, or, they're very thin. They started coming at him, and it's so factual, regardless if it's a fictitious book or not. There's a lot of facts in that book.
I like to call it faction. Fact-based
faction, right? That's a good way. I like, there's one spot in the book where what are they using? They're using you put some rotten meat for the flies that come in there and drop maggots to feed the chickens. Yeah, there you go. Awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff.
Well, and people underestimate it too. Like, the smell of cooking meat will travel up to 2 miles. Okay. You may not notice it today, but after 10 days or so without eating, you'll notice it. Especially when all those smells are gone from the earth, for the most part. Dinner time, you drive through any suburban neighborhood, generally you might catch a whiff of something being cooked, but when that's not the case, and all of a sudden you do catch the smell of something being cooked, you're going to be like every other animal, follow your nose to it, and that's stuff people need to think about. But
no, it's I mean, we both live in Florida, so we know how it is come summertime, barbecues. I mean, and right now, everybody's barbecuing. I can drive down a neighborhood and be like, oh, they're barbecuing.
Yep.
So I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine if that wasn't around, and your senses, because your senses are going to expand at that point. You know what I mean? Because you're not getting always. It's just going to grab your attention. Because I know if I was starving, and I'm sitting there, in my gear, and all of a sudden I smell, something good cooking over there. I'm like, oh, well, what do we got coming over here? Let me see what's up, and assess their group and whatnot. And I don't want to consider myself a marauder, because I do have a family, but it's like you said, we will do whatever it takes to, to feed our kids, our loved ones and whatnot,
Yep. Never say never.
Now, being that you've probably got, and I know from the research I've done, I don't know if you still have it or not. You freeze dry your own food, I think you said.
Well, I did.
You did?
The fire March last year kind of destroyed all that. I don't have any of
Wow.
that anymore. So lost my freeze dryer, dehydrator, and my whole food prep building. All that stuff's gone. So
Holy cow.
Don't have that anymore. Might get one in the future, but not right now.
Do you what kind of food do you stock? Like, do you do any type of canning, or do you buy freeze dried foods and stuff like that?
Yeah, we buy a lot of long-term stuff, but I also buy conventional, rice and beans and flour and sugar and salt and all that, and store that myself. And we're going to be doing some canning. I'm getting ready to put in a much larger garden than the one we have here now. And so right now I'm trying to stock up on canning supplies, buying the jars and the lids and stuff when I can find them. So
Yeah, it's a smart choice. That's what I've been doing too. My viewers have always been like, "Great, when are you going to start canning?" I said, "Well, I have the canner. I got racks and racks of jars and lids. I just get ready to move where I'm living at and stuff like that, and because I have a decent sized garden too. And I think that's another underestimated skill that folks need to have is the gardening aspect of knowing how to grow your own food. And there's
Oh
some
yeah.
folks out there that are like, well, you're not going to live on vegetables and this and this and that, you know, the naysayers. And I'm like, I don't understand if they don't look at history and then the Great Depression era, why they called them, you know, was it freedom gardens? I think was the term for
Well, that
them,
was
or
during World War II. They called them victory gardens.
victory gardens. Thank you. And that actually helped a lot of families back then because regardless of how you look at sustenance, I mean, potatoes, be it sweet potatoes, you know, those high calorie content foods that you can grow. I like to add diversity to my foods. You know, that's why you know, I'll buy the canned goods, the freeze dried goods, the dehydrated goods, as well as the gardening. You know what I mean? Because I want a multifaceted system here so that if something fails, let's say my crop fails, I can fall back on this while, you know, I'm running my second crop or whatnot. So,
Well, and here's the other side of that too: is if let's just say you've got a family of four and you've stored a year's worth of food. That's awesome, all right? But what do you plan to eat on day 366? That's what it comes down to, and that means food production. Because after a year, if you've ate all that food and nothing's come back around, you know,
right.
you're not going to get any more. So you better have a plan to be producing your own. And all these folks that go out and buy, you know, seed vaults and these things and throw them in a closet and think that on game day they're going to become farmers are going to learn a horrible lesson. You know, just like tactical training, gardening is a skill that takes time to learn. There's going to be a lot of failures in it, you know, and you need to learn like what crops grow where you live. What can you grow where you live? You can't just grow everything, and you'll find out that, you know, some varieties grow better than other varieties, and you need to learn all that now, not on game day. You know, if your salvation lies in a seed vault in the hall closet, you're probably looking at starvation unless you get started now. You know.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with you there because it's the fact that that's why I've had some failures, and I've also had a lot of learning experiences to make myself better, and that's kind of what I've been researching now, just with the heat here in Florida, learning what I can grow that I will have less issues with, like let's say like okra, sweet potatoes, peppers, and things like that.
Yep.
Also looking at what the Seminole Indians did, you know, because there's a seed called the Seminole pumpkins that grow better than your, like, let's say your jack-o'-lanterns and stuff like that, or those hybrids you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot, wherever you get. Because I've tried some other things, you know, in the past. When I tried to grow pumpkins last year, those bugs just ate them up alive here in Florida.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you know, you can go back to the old Three Sisters method. The Seminoles used it too. Yeah. You know, corn, bean, and squash. Different varieties of squashes too. And I don't necessarily mean summer squash. You know, things like the hard squashes. Like up in Georgia, my buddy Alan, he grows. It's called a candy roaster squash, and this was a staple of the Cherokee Indians. And they're huge. They grow enormous, and they taste just like candy. They're sweet. They're really good. But he picks those things when they're ready, and he just stores them in cardboard boxes in his house because they keep for months. You don't have to do anything to them. They just keep for months. And so learning a crop like that so that you can grow and say, all right, we can put all this up and we can have it out for this long, you know, because one of the most difficult thing to come across in nature is a carbohydrate. So we need to think about that. You know, simple sugars and carbohydrates are the most difficult thing to produce in nature. Very few plants have it, you know, naturally. But if you can learn those and find them, I mean, there's some out there, but you got to learn them and know how to process them and, you know, where to find them, when to pick them, the whole thing. So all of it is a, you know, it's a mind dump. You know, it takes a lot of time to learn this stuff.
That brings me on to another subject is knowing the plants and the variety of plants that grow in your area, you know, wildly, you know, out in the wild and whatnot, on their own. Like here in Florida, we have, you know, certain things that we can, the closest I can think of to a complex carbohydrate would be down there. What is it called? The heart of palm, or is that the technical term?
Heart of palm's one. There's also another one called wapato, which is a water-based plant that grows a tuber, much like a potato, called duck potatoes, some people call it. So those grow in the water. And then there's also Jerusalem artichokes that grow in Florida. And you can grow those around your house, and they're prolific. I mean, they provide a lot per plant. You plant those things. grow them through the summer. We got some in the garden right now. You know, in the fall when they die back, you can dig up the tubers, and there'll just be mountains of them. You can plant one of those in a 5-gallon bucket, and that bucket will be full of tubers. And they're also a low glycemic index. So for like diabetics and things like that, that's a carb that they can eat that doesn't raise blood sugar levels dramatically. So it's quite beneficial. So, I mean, there's three right there. You got heart of palm, wapatos, and then Jerusalem artichoke. So that's 3 that grow in Florida off the top of my head. There's other ones, Florida betony. There's a few other things out there too that are tuber-like, you know, that can be, you know, kudzu, some of those. So.
And no, that's awesome. That's great information. I get that question a lot because a lot of the diabetics, when we're talking about certain things, or people that have heart issues, because they're always, you know, well, you know, canned food has a lot of sodium in it, this, that, and that. I'm like, I understand where they're coming from, because a lot of people have a lot of health issues, and that's what I'm going to get into here in a second. But I always think about, if you're in a survival situation, how many calories you're going to be burning, because you're just not going to be sitting on the couch, you know, with the remote in your hand, you know, clicking through channels at that point. You're going to be burning a lot of stuff. So some of that, especially specifically for the type 2s, you know, if you're out there, you know, burning that off, those calories and those foods off, you'll be consuming a lot of calories that you would not normally consume. And that's what I like about the sweet potatoes. They can get a little crazy by themselves as well, especially down here in Florida. So
absolutely they can, you know, and they're a perennial, they come back. So it's good to have a bed of sweet potatoes somewhere. And as far as like type 2, folks suffering with type 2 diabetes, like a grit down situation will resolve your type 2 diabetes for you because you're going to lose weight. You're not going to be eating refined sugars. It's going to change your diet. So that'll resolve itself. But yeah, it's, you know, having a plan though. I mean, you got to be started now. You can't wait to game day, you know, and think you're going to go do this stuff.
Agreed. I try to tell folks, look, even if you're in an apartment, you're very limited on space, try growing something. Start to get some of that experience, understand how things work and how a plant life cycle works, how to germinate, how to transplant, you know, how to clone things.
You could be sprouting. You could even, you know, on your kitchen counter, you could be sprouting and doing that. You know, they make those trees now that have like the big water container at the bottom and the tower and all the little pockets that you plant here. You could have that on the balcony of your garden, growing vegetables, you know. There's always a way to do it. You know, a 5-gallon bucket can be a planter. You can have tomato plants on your balcony, you know.
Agreed.
Growing peppers, growing something, just like you said, to get familiar with that process and how long it takes. So
we're definitely on the same wavelength, brother.
For sure.
And moving on to that next thing, and my other main concern with a lot of folks, being that we're talking about people who have health issues, is medicinal plants and learning how medicinal plants can be beneficial to you outside of not having accessibility to a pharmacy. To me, that's a big thing.
Yeah. You know, all modern medicines can trace their roots back to their botanical origin, really. And plants are powerful medicine, and they can also be, you know, deadly medicine. So you need to be careful. There's a guy on YouTube, Green Dean. I highly recommend him on YouTube. He does a zillion videos. He's got years worth of stuff on there, especially being in Florida. You'll like Green Dean. I've met him before. I used to be a part of the Florida Native Plant Society and would hang out with him and Dick Durling when Dick was still alive. Those guys are just like encyclopedias.
That's awesome.
And learning what you can eat and then what you can do medicinally, you know. There's medicinal treatments for everything. I mean, kidney stones, you know. Last time I was at Robin Sage, we had one of our officers there was he had a kidney stone while he was in the field. And me and Alan were making him a tea from a plant called Pipsissawa, which will dissolve kidney stones. Just dissolve them. Just drink the tea. Now, that's not something they sell commercially, but if you know about the plant, you can go out in the woods and pick it yourself and make a tea out of it. And you won't have to pass the stone. It'll dissolve the stone for you.
Yeah, and Quest, I agree. That's why I've been playing with my banana plants. Zone 9B, that's where I'm at too, man. Definitely grow bananas. That's a nice sugar.
We got some plants. We got some little bananas out here too. So
I think everybody, if you live in Florida, you should have some bananas growing somewhere.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of them actually. We started with one plant, and then we transplanted that, and it split, and we transplanted those splits. Now they're in like 5 places around the property. We got banana trees everywhere.
Yeah, they're self-propagating. It's an awesome plant.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's truly intriguing, all the different things that you can think of. You know, you can throw down your sweet potatoes, bananas, and some of these other plants that will self-propagate, you know, and that's, I look at that too, trying to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to get the most out of this plant? You know what I mean? Like right now I'm trying to grow echinacea, right? It's just one of those things that I want to grow.
Mhm.
And you know, if you started from seed, you might not get the benefits from that for about a year or two. You know,
Yeah.
you got to let it do its thing. And so I'm forward thinking now, like, okay, if I can get this plant going now, if things do go south, because if it goes south tomorrow, I'm screwed at that aspect. You know what I mean? I should have started this 10 years ago. But it's like you said, the time is to start now. No matter where you're at in life, if you're looking at being prepared, you have to look at. I know it's a lot for folks to digest sometimes, but there's a lot of facets to emergency preparedness. But start working on this, start working on that, and as you start getting better at this, you know, learn a lot of these different skill sets that you can do. You know, because you can do your garden, and then of course you can focus on if you're into firearms, you can do some firearms training. There's a lot of instructors around, even here in my area, that you can work with. A lot of us, like myself, for prior service, you know, we know the folks that you might want to be in touch with, and that's why, you know, knowing the right people also is very beneficial.
Well, the networking aspect is a big thing because everybody always asks, how do I meet like-minded people? Take a training class. I don't care if it's in canning or tactical or a survival class or a communications class, ham radio. That's how you meet people that are thinking the same way you are. And you ain't got to jump out there and you know, start immediately into, oh, I'm a prepper and I'm going to, you know, just, you know, talk to them, get to know them. Because, you know, while people are our greatest liability, they are also our greatest asset. Because at some point you've got to go to sleep and close your eyes.
Well
And
said.
you need somebody you can depend on to keep their eyes open while you're doing that. So,
And that's what I feel, the whole lone wolf thing will not work for long-term survival.
no, it won't. You have to go to sleep, you know. And if you think, well, you know, my camouflage and skills are so good and all this crap, you know, great, unless some dude's got thermals, you know. And there's ways to mitigate that too, but you have to be on all the time if you're by yourself. And you can't stay on all the time. You just physically can't. It'll wear you down. So
I've even looked at it from the aspect militarily. Some of our, you know, our elite forces, in mass numbers, they can be overwhelmed and overtaken, you know, in certain aspects.
oh, absolutely. I mean, numbers will always do it. If you're one guy, it don't take many numbers to come get you. So
Exactly. So let me see. I'm trying to keep an eye on our time. Last question, and then we'll get into last question for me at least, and then we'll get into some questions from some folks in chat. They've been very patient, and again, thank you guys for being here. As where do you see the future of this country going, brother?
very hard to say right now. There's just so many variables at play. You know, earlier I said government is nothing but a monopoly on force. So we have to remember that. Government's number one job is to perpetuate government. So we always have to remember that. Anytime there's a crisis or anything going on, their first focus is on making sure they keep their job and that their job exists. So we got to bear that in mind in everything we think about. Now, we're looking at attacks against the fundamental foundations of this country now. The Supreme Court's illegitimate, or the Supreme Court is an activist court, or whatever. And you're hearing calls for it to be actually dismantled. Like, it boggles my mind. And then you see politicians out there like AOC saying that it's the president and Congress's job to keep the Supreme Court in check. Actually, no, you're backwards. You know, that's not what it's for. So it's hard to say. You know, we know we're coming into a recession. The economy is going to get much worse. We know that there is a profound fundamental divide in this country between the people that are here. That's not going to improve anytime soon. And then we're looking at a scarcity of resources, which is only going to continue to get worse. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. So it's kind of the perfect storm. You know, the people are divided right now. And the politicians are just ginning it up. So at this point, I'm going to wait and see. We're not going to wake up one day and like it's going to be on. It's happening right now. Look around you. You know, it's happening now. How far it goes, I'm not sure yet. But I'm hedging my bets. I'm getting ready for it to go pretty far.
It's like most folks say, it's better to be prepared than not prepared at all, man. No matter how you look at it. I mean, because you live in Florida, you know, a hurricane can just brew up anywhere and just create some havoc here in the state, you know?
Oh, they're already saying that if that was to occur, that gas prices will just be astronomical. I mean, retarded, you know. Let one hit the Jersey coast up there where all the refineries are packed in, and we'll be in a world of hurt quick.
Yeah, it's good. Things have gotten so bad. Everything's like on a what's that word? What's the word that they use? Like a shoestring or something like that. Everything is just wire thin at this point. And
even if we banjo string at the moment.
Yeah, there you go. Even if we come down to a point where a nasty Katrina-like hurricane hits the Gulf, that's going to create some issues as well with all those refineries and stuff down there as well. So it's
yes, it will.
No matter where it comes in at, it's a scary situation.
Yep.
And all right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to you folks out there. Please, you can put a Q in front of it in all caps. And mods, if you can help me grab these questions as they come through. And I'll try to keep an eye out. I got the chat over here, but I'm also trying to pay attention to my guests and stuff like that. So I got a couple monitors to pay attention to. But if you guys have some questions, be it if it's just about his books, or if it's just a question about preparedness or anything like that, go ahead and drop those. And Minuteman, you're absolutely right. If Houston gets hit again like that, what was it, a few years ago when Houston had that hurricane that just kind of stayed there for a while and just saturated the hell out of it?
Just sat there and flooded them out.
That's just crazy. Standing at the brink, no one pulls this back. Just making sure I don't miss anything. And last but not least, while you guys are thinking of some questions, the whole situation with yesterday's in Chicago, that just blew me away. As mainstream media went wild with it, man. And it's funny, I was watching Twitter feeds, and I know you probably were on top of it as well. They were trying to push it. He was a MAGA guy. He was, this and all that stuff like that initially to push that agenda. And then all of a sudden we see that he was literally aligned with Antifa and white supremacy and all that stuff like that as usual.
Well, yeah, I think that was just one twisted guy. He had already attempted suicide once. He was known by law enforcement. They had been to his house. They had seized a bunch of edge weapons from him because he was making threats against his family. So he's making threats against his family, threatening to kill himself, kill his family. They come take his edge weapons away, but then he walks in the house with 5 firearms and nobody questions this. I mean, if this is somebody that has threatened suicide and threatened to harm others, I think you should be worried if they come home with guns,
Exactly. It's and I'm pretty sure the story will unfold over the next few weeks, and we'll hear more about it because I'm pretty sure there's a lot more that we haven't heard yet. And if it doesn't fit their narrative, they'll swipe it under the rug and move forward with it.
I was just gonna say, they'll just make it up.
All right, so we get a question from Jeffrey Gerger. He says, just started book 11. Will there be a 12?
Yes, I'm working on it now. I've been sitting here all day writing on it. So
that is awesome. That's good to hear too, man. I'm glad, because sometimes it's just like some people get crazy because I like to watch The Walking Dead. You know what I mean? And it's been, I forget how many seasons it is. I got hooked, man, and I enjoy the content. And I like to see where these folks, like I said, make their mistakes. I'm like, okay, note to self, zombies ever come, don't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, here we go. Thank you, Deacon. I saw that pop up there. Busted Beak says, is there any way of knowing of groups in our area of the same mindset? I can add to that, and you can add to that if you'd like.
I will caution everybody on any kind of a group. In this current time in our country, if you are a right-leaning, not even right-wing, just right-leaning organization that is like organized in any capacity, you can just about guarantee it's infiltrated by the feds. It's just a fact. You look at all these, like the Whitmire kidnapping plot is a prime example. There was a couple of idiots that started talking and a bunch of FBI agents got in. There was more agents involved than there were idiots. So I try to avoid anything that's organized. Anything with a name, a label, anything like that, I don't want no part of it. So Roger
that. And Busted Beak, what I'll add to that is if you're part of the Discord, Busted Beak, I have a section in there. It's broken down into states and areas, and you can, before meeting people, you can have discussions in there and get to know folks that way. And then if you decide to meet up with them at your own recourse, you can kind of build something from there of like-minded folks. That's the best I can do from where I'm at in my position. Bizza Rizza Jizza, which he does. He's writing. He has it on his YouTube. He tells the stories on YouTube, which is quite interesting. I've had him on my channel before, but he has a question. He says, the best practice for overcoming writer's block, and how does Chris stay motivated and consistent to write?
That can be tough. Some days just aren't days for it. And if I'm having a hard time, I'll just get up and leave my computer. I want to sit there and try to figure it out. I'll go do something else, and then come back when it's there. You know, the story's always turning in my head, so I've usually got something to work on when I sit down. But yeah, it's you know, I hang out with those characters all day long. So, they're always in my head doing shit, you know. And so whenever I sit down, usually I can write. But like I said, if I've been working for a couple hours and all of a sudden I equate it to like a well, you know. The well's full of water. Well, if you start drawing a lot of water out of it, the level of the well drops, right? Well, if you stop taking the water out, then it'll recover. It'll come back up to full again. And the writing can be the same way. Like you might sit down and write for 15 minutes or 4 hours. But when the well kind of gets low, just stop. Don't try to force it. That's what I've learned. I don't try to force it to happen. Again, I can tell when I'm trying to too. And I'm just like, this is bullshit. And I'll delete all that and be like, I'm going to go do something else for a while.
Roger that. And Rainey, I'm sorry I missed that, but thank you for the super chat. Hello to you as well. Let me see. Prepper Book Club said, I always thought it would be cool to recreate Morgan's Trek. Chris books really came in at the time of what I like to call the golden age of prepper fiction. Roger that.
Well, they did, because like when Going Home came out, really all there was 1 second after Patriots.
Right.
That's really it. I mean, you had to go back years, like John Stone's The Survivalist Series, to get something like it. Mm-hmm. So I kind of hit the market at just the right moment. And then after I did, everybody's like, well, that dumb redneck can do it. I can do it. And everybody jumped in and started writing books. So.
Oh, love it, man. Love it. All right. One of my awesome folks, one of my longtime viewers, and is Voodoo Queen. She's a herbalist individual. So what does she got here? She says, question, what was the name of the candy squash? Can it grow in the Midwest Zone 5B?
That I don't know if it'll grow. Candy roaster squash is what it's called. And I can ask Alan for the Cherokee name that might have a better name for you, but they're called candy roasters. They're long and, you know, thin on both ends, middle, and then they just narrow down. So, but yeah, they're good. They're really good.
Voodoo, what I can do is I harass Chris enough on Twitter. I can touch base with him down the road once he gets that information, and I can pass it along to you in the Discord.
Yeah, I'll talk to Alan and find out what it's really called.
Roger that. Doomsdayer says, I need to know what the DHS Recon in Book 11.
What about it?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out too. Just because the spelling's a little threw me off for a second, so I was just trying to make sure. And I haven't got to read Book 11 yet, so I don't know.
Yeah,
kind of like a spoiler there for me.
Yeah, well, it drags into Book 12. I'll tell you that.
That's you always got to leave it there. You got to leave a little bit of a cliffhanger there. Black Cat Whirly Gig says, "Are you ready? Yes or no?"
Am I ready? No, I'll never consider myself ready. It's always a work in progress.
Agreed, brother. We're always in that position of getting ready. You know what I mean? Yep. And it never stops.
Yep.
Let me see, who do we got here? Andres Arango. And if I butcher your name, my apologies. I'm not the best at it. It says, what were the tuber-like crops that grow well in Florida? Also, fruit trees.
Well, the tuber crops would be the Wapato, and then the Jerusalem artichoke. And as far as fruit trees, it depends on your zone. You know, if you're down south, you can get into the tropical stuff. Like up where I'm at, we're getting out of the tropical zone. We have to go with a little more hardier versions of things. You know, the banana plants always get, you know, if it freezes up here, and it does, they'll get killed off, you know, as well as like my wife's bougainvillea, stuff like that all gets killed off. So you got to pick some hardier things like that. It just depends on the zone. You look up your zone. And a great resource for that is your local university's ag office. Their ag extension, you can talk with them and they'll tell you exactly what grows in your zone. So you can even contact them and they'll send somebody out to do a soil test for you and tell you what amendments your soil needs.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything is free is good.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Casey. Good to see you in chat. Busted Beak, how do we get on the Discord? Harvey usually drops the Discord link, and it's also down below every single one of my videos in the Connect with GreyMan section. And Mark Adventures, you said what books? Mark, That's also located down in this video specifically. It's the Going Home series or the Survivalist series. If you haven't read them, Mark, phenomenal books, man. Phenomenal books. Let me see here. Kind of scroll down here. It says, JT says, Chris, do you find yourself talking to your characters?
In my head, yeah. I mean, I don't talk out loud to them, but I talk to them in my head all the time. So
let me see here. What is Minuteman? Minuteman says, do you write motes when an idea comes to you while out working?
Yeah, I do actually. I carry Write in the Rain notebooks. I've got like 3 of them that are for different purposes, all in a zipper case, so I can take with me wherever I go, so that when an idea hits, I can write it down. Otherwise, I'll forget. I can't remember shit, so I got to write it down.
Surprised you don't have like one of those little recorder things where you can speak into it and just like record.
Well, yeah, I've used my phone before for voice notes and stuff like that, but I try to write them down instead of doing voice notes. I don't like to listen to my own voice. I don't like to watch myself on video. I don't like to none of that crap. I don't even want to see it. So,
right on, man. Russ and Teresa Sawyer says, question, not a question, but a shout out to Angery American. More, I'm probably gonna butcher this. MOARBUK.
More book. That was
More.
So. Russ is one of my mods. Russ and Teresa both are, and they were around back when I was writing online. So they've been around for better than a decade, and they helped me with a whole lot of stuff. And they're good folks. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys being here as well. Thank you so much, especially any of you folks that have came over from Angry's podcast and whatnot, and Facebook and stuff like that. Joanna Wallace kind of is helping us out. She says candy roasters are called Cucurbrutus maxima.
There you go. And Joanna's another one of those. She's been around forever too.
It's very, when I first started this whole YouTube game, I never thought that I would have a community like this, and so much information outside of myself that I talk about on my channel that's in the community. There's a wealth of information amongst our viewers and whatnot.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. That's why you need a tribe. Everybody's got a different skill set.
Agreed. Some of you guys are just saying things that looks like questions because it's all in caps, B Walker. You're throwing me off. But that's smart. That is smart, B Walker. Good stuff. Can't wait to read them. His sweetie, you'll love it. It'll suck you in. I'm telling you. Quest, thanks for the support. Candy roasters are amazing. Prepper Book Club says, GreyMan, pretty much anything Chris puts out is an instant buy. Roger that.
Well, I'm glad you guys think so.
And Minuteman, you're absolutely right. His books are on audio, not on YouTube, but they're in audio books. Because that's how I listen to them, because I'm a lazy reader. I like to sit back, put either my headphones in when I'm in the garden or when I go to sleep, and throw on these books and just kind of listen to them. Yep.
I'm a big fan of the audio too. I don't read anymore. I don't have time to read books anyway. I read a lot of nonfiction stuff, technical things. But as far as if I want to do a book, like if I'm driving or something, I'll do an audio book to help pass time. So I love audiobooks, but I don't listen to anything in the genre.
Roger.
Science fiction and crap like that.
It's a lot of people ask me, like, hey, what channels do you watch? And there's a few of them out there, but I can't watch consistent prepper channels because that's just something that I'm familiar with. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't expect you to be sitting out there, reading a bunch of nonfiction or fiction books in regard to your same genre.
No, I don't read the fiction books.
Good to see you. Agreed. Take care, Julie. Food Forest says, question: have you had to, and if so, have you had to amend Florida sandy soil?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Typically, all we do is we'll add in a lot of organic compost. Like I'm getting ready to put the new garden in, and the way that'll work is I'll bring in several loads, dump trailer loads of organic compost, and dump it where the garden will be. That'll get tilled into the earth, and then we can use that to start from there. And then you might have to add other stuff, Epsom salt or like crushed oyster shell, that sort of stuff. It just depends on what it tests out after you got it ready.
Agreed. There's a thing that I'm learning about with a buddy of mine that's on YouTube, David the Good, or Survival Garden of David the Good. And he brought something to my attention. He wasn't the first to do it, but I know he's taken on that and added his own little twist to it, but it's called lasagna gardening.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's basically you're building up soil and you're adding things to that. Like, 'cause I guess where he lives at is a lot of clay now. He used to be a Florida gardener. Now he's up, I think, in Alabama or somewhere, and so much clay and stuff that he's having to build up a spot, kind of like a mound, and things start to break down and create this whole thing where you can actually grow at.
Yep. Just keep adding organic matter back in there. That's what matters.
Agreed. And Bizza Rizza Jizza says, does Chris type his writing or use long form by hand?
I type it out. Alan Kay, we did Decline and Decay together, the nonfiction book, and he hand wrote his side of it. And then I had to try to decipher those hieroglyphics and turn it into English.
Oh man, Alan sounds awesome, brother.
Oh, he is. I'll be seeing him here soon.
Prepper Book Club says, is Chris planning any other books outside of the Going Home line?
Yeah. So I'm doing book 12 now. The next book will be a sequel to Cry Havoc that I did a couple years ago. And then I have an entirely new project that I'm kind of outlining and making notes on right now, getting ready to start. But that'll probably be next year. But that will be a very interesting project. No one's done anything like this before, so it should be pretty cool when it comes out. So
awesome. Truly has me intrigued. And JT says, one of my mods says, been reading A American since 2013. Fantastic stories.
Glad you like them, man.
Minute Man, you would have to reach out to him via Twitter or whatnot. I'm assuming somewhere, some way, you could probably get an autographed copy.
Oh yeah. You just you can hit me up on Facebook or hit my wife, Angry Mel. You can hit her up on Facebook because she's a little more responsive than I am. I've got hundreds of messages and social media I've got to go through, but we do those directly. And I just got books in today, as a matter of fact. I'm looking at a stack of them sitting over there. So we do a box set. I've got a box that looks like an ammo can, and
nice.
The first 10 books of the series goes into. So we've got books and we do them signed and whatever, but you can contact her or hit me up on Facebook too. Just might take me a couple days to respond to you.
Got my mind working. I'm going to have to weasel my way into one of these ammo cans of books here. Food Forest says, inexpensive and durable irrigation system that you would suggest?
Inexpensive and durable.
That's quite the
yeah, I mean, PVC pipe's going to be your best bet. I mean, I hate using this shit too, but if you try to use any of the little hose irrigation systems, they just don't have the ruggedness to them, and they're going to go to shit. So really that's it, PVC, run some PVC pipe, tie it into the water system. And, I wouldn't try to go with like timers and all that stuff. I would just use manual valves. That way it's simpler and you don't have to worry about it breaking down, but that means you got to be there to turn it on and off. So.
Right. B Walker, you are the least angry among us. You probably haven't seen him in action. But folks, we have hit over an hour or an hour and 3 minutes, folks. And, Chris is a very busy person.
Yeah, I got another live to do. As soon as we disconnect this, I'm starting mine on Patreon. So
that's awesome, man. You'll have to send me the links to that, man, so I can watch you as well. But folks, I want to say thank you. Thank you to every single one of you amazing people out there in this community for hanging out with us, especially some of you new folks out there, some that have been with me since day one. I appreciate every single one of you as well as your mods. Chris, do you have any final thoughts and words?
Nah, I mean, everybody just, I would say stay at it, get as much done now as you can. Anything you buy today will be cheaper than it will be tomorrow. So if you're sitting around holding off to do something, I would pull the trigger and do whatever it is you're waiting on, because it's not going to get easier. We're in for a long, hot summer.
Agreed. And B Walker says, nice to meet you. Great to see the face behind the book. I agree.
Glad you guys are enjoying them.
We want an encore.
Having to get a real job, and I just don't want to have to do that at this point. I'm kind of ruined.
Oh man. Anyways, brother, if you want to hang tight real quick, and then I'll let you go if that's okay.
Yeah, man.
It'll take like probably about 30 seconds, maybe a minute after.
Not a problem.
All right. Again, folks.
Appreciate everybody watching.
Yeah. And thank you for joining me and taking out the time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us on this
no worries.
channel, brother. I appreciate that.
No worries.
All right. Other than that, folks, you guys know, be safe out there. And remember, you're not alone. All right. So God bless. I'll see all you folks in the rebound. Have a good one.